America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome to the broadcast. On this Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, joining me is Leo Holman. We're going to talk about President Trump just declared that the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is a dictator. That's something we have been trying to tell this audience and the TV audience at night for some time. He is not a hero. He is not a freedom fighter. He is a dictator. And we're going to talk about that along with these neocons that want us to go to war. Last night, we played a clip on TV. I'll play it for you here on radio. I think the U.S. Senator from Mississippi, Roger Wicker, declaring that President Putin needs to be executed. And then he tries to name a pamphlet that he read when he was a young person. I think I know what it was he was reading, and he's got the name wrong. I'll show you because I own the book. We'll deal with that and a lot more. Let's go to Leo Holman. Leo, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Brannon. Good to be with you this afternoon.
You too, Leo. Hey, Leo, I have, I'm going to show this on TV tonight, but this is a $5 redback. It's called a redback because it has a red seal on it, a red emblem right there, and it says the U.S. Treasury. It's not the Federal Reserve, it's the U.S. Treasury. And at the top of the dollar bill, it says United States note. United States note. It does not say U.S. Federal Reserve note. Or U.S. Federal Reserve.
Which means that's constitutional money.
We're not hearing Leo.
You're not hearing Leo, Logan?
No.
All right, you should be now. You're right. It's not constitutional money. This was printed.
I would say it is constitutional.
Oh, it is. Yes, it is constitutional. Excuse me. It is constitutional money. It was printed in 1963 by President John F. Kennedy. President John F. Kennedy. And I bought this 15 years ago. I bought it 15 years ago. I was at an antique shop, and I was walking through the antique shop with my wife, and I always go over to where they sell silver coins and whatnot. And there it was. And I said to my wife, you know what that is? That is a redback. I've always wanted to own one. Now, I paid $14 for a $5 bill. But I think it's probably worth more than the $14 now. I told Chris Martinson, economist with Peak Prosperity, that I had one this morning because he's going to come on tonight and talk about this and a lot more. And he said, I wish I had one of those. So, there you go.
I'm very jealous of you, Brandon.
I need to get it framed and hang it in my office. It needs to be framed and behind a mat. And I need to try to frame it probably with the document where he signed the executive order creating those. But President Kennedy wasn't long for this world shortly after that, was he?
No, he was not. And just in case any of your viewers are not quite understanding why I said that is constitutional money, is because the Constitution says that Congress and the Treasury shall have the right to coin money and regulate the value thereof, something to that effect. I don't know the word for word phrasing, but basically that's what it says, Congress and the Treasury. There's nothing in the Constitution that I'm aware of, Brannon, that says that a privately owned national bank, quasi-governmental but privately owned, should have the right to regulate the value of our currency or print any of it. So good on President Kennedy. He paid with his life. And, there's rumors going around that maybe Trump has similar ideas up his sleeve.
And that is exactly why I brought this into the studio today and brought it up, because I was having a conversation with Chris Martinson, again, who'll be on tonight, who is also one of the keynote speakers at our upcoming October 3rd and 4th National Worldview Weekend, which I might go ahead and mention now. We will have tickets available here probably before the week is over. There's only 350 seats available in the auditorium here in the Mid-South that we have rented. It is what we call our 22nd annual National Worldview Weekend. As you guys know, we were in Branson for many, many years. And then we moved it to Lake of the Ozarks. And now we're moving it to the Mid-South, just outside of Memphis. And you can go ahead and mark your calendar now if you want. It'll be Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. We'll probably do our concert banquet on that Thursday night as well, the 2nd. But right now we know for sure Friday night and Saturday, Friday night the 3rd, Saturday the 4th. Mark Mitchell, the lead pollster with Rasmussen, will be with us. Gordon Chang will be with us. Alex Newman, Chris Martenson, the economist, Dr. Lana, Sidney Powell, attorney Sidney Powell. Those are some of the speakers that I have confirmed thus far. So you guys might find that interesting. Anyway, Leo, that's what I'm going to be discussing tonight with Chris, because I called Chris today and I said, Chris, I think President Trump is going to pull a John F. Kennedy. I think he's going to compete. He's going to compete with the Fed. He's going to create something outside of the Federal Reserve System. And I don't know. Elon is out saying that he's not sure the gold is in Fort Knox in Kentucky. He was shocked that we don't have an audit of Fort Knox every year. That shocked him. And now he's questioning whether the gold is there. I wonder if this is, again, partly being done because they want to get a hold of all the gold, get it back into the U.S. Treasury. You have Zeldin, the new EPA administrator, talking about $2 billion that the Biden regime put off into, I think, a Citibank bank account to distribute to other groups, which I think is clearly fraud. He's talking about...
Yeah, I think it was like 20 billion, wasn't it?
Really? Was it really?
I think I saw the figure of 20 billion, yeah.
Well, he's trying to get that back into the Treasury. And I'm wondering if this whole talk about gold with President Trump and Elon is they're going to create some kind of cryptocurrency outside of the Federal Reserve, which is why Donald Trump signed an executive order saying we will not be doing a central bank digital currency. And the Fed, of course, has been preparing for that for a long time under the executive order of Biden. Trump is going the route of JFK, which makes me a little nervous when we have all these man pads, shoulder-launched missiles floating around, 5,000 of them Russian-made, floating around from Venezuela, and some of them now in the U.S., I'm told.
Yeah, that's always a concern. I mean, it was two things that got John F. Kennedy in hot water with the deep state establishment was his desire to get rid of the Federal Reserve privately owned national bank, and also to break apart and depose the CIA. And isn't it interesting that Trump is, if not wanting to do something similar, at least totally reorganize the CIA and undercut the privately owned Federal Reserve?
Mm-hmm. And with that being said, if people go over to worldviewreport.com, that's your daily aggregated news site, worldviewreport.com. I put these articles up there myself, and you'll see, there we go, Administrator Zeldin, I think it's Lee Zeldin is his first name, right? The first name, yeah. Lee? Announces that billions of dollars worth of gold bars, you put quote around gold bars, have been located outside of the financial institution. Here is one. Bets are in, and Doge could audit Fort Knox before May. JP Morgan plans $4 billion in U.S. gold delivery amid tariff fears. Why are U.S. banks flying gold from London to New York? Goldman hoists gold target to 3,100 on central bank appetite. We have all kinds of things going on here. Game on for Bitcoin. Musk Doge questions Fort Knox gold reserves. What you need to know about a possible U.S. gold revaluation. See, they're talking about taking it from what, like $42 an ounce to, what it is right now, which is about like 2,900 and something. But right now, the gold that we're holding is marked at about $42. So again, there are gold guys that are saying, gold has been completely ignored by most people. They're chasing Bitcoin. They're chasing, what's that? Nvidia. They're chasing the Nvidia stock. And these people think that making 30%, a year is, if you're not making 30% a year, you're a loser. And one financial guy I was watching last night said, whatever happened to the slow and steady? If you could do there was some economists in the past that said, if you could do a 7% return on your investments every year consistently, you are a hero. You are a brilliant, brilliant financial person. Well, you got these other people chasing 30% and think that anybody that's trying to do 7 to 10% a year is a loser and not aggressive enough. But of course, those people chasing the 30% annual return oftentimes end up losing it, right? The slow and steady people get it. long term. They keep it. It's generational. But that's what's happening. And he's saying a lot of people are ignoring gold. And gold has been consistently doing 9 and 10% returns annually. And people are not paying attention. They're chasing the Bitcoin. They're chasing the Nvidia and all these other stocks that are thought to be so cool. And they're ignoring most of them. In other words, don't follow the herd. But most of them are ignoring what's going on in the gold market, which is these central banks are gobbling up the gold. They have been, but they're gobbling it up more and more and more. And it seems as though the Bank for International Settlements, the central banks, and the Bank for International Settlements is the central bank of central bankers in Basel, Switzerland. They seem to know what's coming. And what I think is coming is Putin is going to probably back his BRICS system with gold. I don't know what we're going to do, have a competing system, join in with them. But I think Donald Trump is setting up to have his own cryptocurrency of some kind backed by gold. And I think people are going to be shocked when gold goes to $5,000 an ounce, $10,000 an ounce. They won't believe it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely on target, Brandon. We should be taking our cues from the world's central banks, and they're all stocking up on gold, buying it in bulk. And what is going on with the shipments of gold from London over to New York? Apparently we own some gold that's been sitting there, and now we're transferring it back home where it belongs. I think that jives well with your theory there, Brandon, that maybe Trump is gearing up for some sort of gold-backed alternative currency. I'm sure it'll probably be crypto in nature, backed up by physical gold. But in order to do that, he's got to get the gold back into Fort Knox. And like the Federal Reserve, Fort Knox has never really had an in-depth audit. They did one partial audit, I believe, of the Federal Reserve back when Ron Paul was demanding that. Just to pacify him, but it wasn't a real audit. It was just very, very partial. And so we need to find out, well, now more than ever, right, Brandon? We need to find out and look, where are the receipts? What is the hidden value of everything the U.S. government has said that it has? We've seen how it has spent like crazy on projects that no American would be in favor of in trillions of dollars. Musk is now saying that he'll have no problem finding $1 trillion of waste that they can somehow refund to the American public. But we also need to find out what's in Fort Knox.
Yeah, and we got the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, saying that we need to find ways to, quote, monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet, end quote. So now we take our gold and we mark it from $42 up to what, $3,000, or who knows where we do, and watch the price of gold for the individual investor. And then you add in hard assets. Donald Trump talking about Canada, Donald Trump talking about Greenland. Is this also about resources, hard assets, minerals? And he wants Ukraine's minerals. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Before we continue, I want to thank all of you that are getting our business cards. Many of you asked us to print some two-sided business cards that talk about our program in Worldview Tube. And so I know it's taken us a long time to fulfill that request, but we've done that now. And you can get a packet of 20 of those at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com, and pass them out and tell people about our program and what we're doing, what we're up to. And many, many hundreds of you have now ordered those packs of 20. It'd be great if we could disseminate about 50,000 of these cards here in 2025. You can get a free pack of these business cards, absolutely free. We'll ship them to you if you're interested. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Don't forget, Dr. Andy Woods and I will be coming to Milwaukee, outside of Milwaukee, in Waukesha, to the Waukesha Expo Center. It's our Worldview Radio Understanding the Times rally. That's a Tuesday evening, April 15th. And it's absolutely free, 7 to 9:30, but you do have to have a ticket so that we can make sure we have enough chairs, okay? You might want to get a pen or paper and write this, pen and pencil and paper, and write this down. Worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. And if for some reason you're not on the internet, you can just check in with Melissa, just text her and give her your name and number, or your name, I should say, and how many tickets you need, and she can put you on the list. And that's simply 901-825-0652, 901-825-0652. And just give us your name and your email. Your name and your email is what Logan's telling me. Your name and your email and how many tickets. But please, if you're able to do it on the internet, please do it, folks. Please. She's poor gal is overworked. All right. So, but I do not want to leave out some of my senior citizen friends that say, I don't even own a computer, Brandon. So I don't want to leave you guys out. We love you guys, and we want you there too, and we want you to have a seat. So if you are one of these folks that does not have a computer, you can just text her and give your name and email address. Well, I guess if you have email, you must have a computer. I don't know how that works. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe some of you don't even text. I don't know what else to do. I don't know if you want to do a carrier pigeon. I don't know. We can't do that, I guess. But anyway, 901-825-0652. I guess you could always leave a voicemail, couldn't you? Maybe some of you have one of those flip phones. You don't text. You don't do any of that. I guess you could always leave a voicemail and say, my name is, and I want 2 tickets or whatever, and she'll put you on the list. 901-825-0652. But I think most folks today can send an email or get online, even if they go to a library, I think, right? Or have a friend do it for them. worldviewtube.com/events, and join us on Tuesday evening, April 15th at the Waukesha Expo Center. Okay, Leo, I'm reading an article from Kitco, and they say one possible strategy is revaluating our gold, as we were talking about. It's currently at around $42 an ounce. Hasn't been, that's not changed since 1973. We've been at $42 since 1973. So if they were to reevaluate it at, say, the current price, 2,900 and something, whatever it is at today, they write that every $1,000 increase in the price of gold adds $1 trillion to the Treasury's general account. Wow. So let's just say we go from $42 and we put it at 3,000. Basically, let's just round it out, $3,000. That's $3 trillion, because every $1,000 increase in the price of gold is $1 trillion. So they could add $3 trillion to the balance sheet, the general accounting balance sheet of the Treasury right there, $3 trillion. And we better do something, because right now our interest payments are projected to go from about $952 billion here in 2025 to nearly $1.8 trillion in 2035. So 10 years from now, we're going to be paying $1.8 trillion every year just in our interest cost on the national debt.
Unbelievable and unsustainable.
Yeah, it is unsustainable. And President Trump knows this.
Well, the question is, I think Biden administration knew it too. The only difference was they were trying to milk for every last penny what they could get out of the system, instead of trying, like President Trump is doing, to see what we can put into the system to get the books once again in balance. They were in it just for themselves, them and their globalist elite buddies. The Biden crime family, it was always out for its own interests, getting paid millions of dollars from China, from the mayor of Moscow. I mean, they didn't care about what was going on monetarily or fiscally here at home, or with the border situation.
True. They were paid, I think, paid agents for the CCP to bring down America.
Very likely, Brandon, very likely.
Let's go to a social media post by President Trump today, February 19th. He says, quote, think of it, a modestly successful comedian. He's talking about Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization in that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us? We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues, end quote. All right, I'm just going to say what's on my mind right now, whether people agree, and maybe I will retract it later myself. But my emotions right now, here's what I'm thinking. This guy is a dictator. He's a little dictator, and he should be arrested. Okay, we should, and I'm not generally for nation building, and I'm generally not for invading other nations, but we've spilled too much money over there. And I think we need to arrest Zelensky, we need to put him on trial, and we need to take over Ukraine. They owe us. And until they can pay back all of our money, we own Ukraine. We're taking Ukraine and its minerals until they can work out a payment plan to pay us back. And therefore, we can guarantee to Putin, we will not be adding Ukraine to NATO and starting a war with you. But until we're repossessing your country, until you can pay us back what we're owed and find half of this missing money, we are taking custody of your country because we're done playing these games with you. I am sick and tired of us giving trillions of dollars, billions and trillions to countries, and we, the taxpayer, work like dogs to pay it in taxes, and then inflation, the hidden tax of inflation. Leo?
Yeah, and not only is half the money unaccounted for, from reports I've been reading, at least half the weapons are unaccounted for. They've been selling many of the weapons that we've been sending over to Ukraine on the black market and profiting off of that. Brandon, it is just a complete disaster what's been going on over there the last 3 years and really since 2014. And I'm glad to see President Trump making it a priority now. I was starting to wonder after the first 2 weeks went by and we heard very little about Ukraine. It seems like the last week or so we've heard a lot about Ukraine. And he's now wanting to schedule a face-to-face meeting with President Putin. We have gone, people, almost 3.5 years with no substantive diplomatic relations between the world's two most powerful nuclear-armed superpowers. I don't know about you, Brandon, but I'm sleeping better at night knowing that those two global superpowers armed to the teeth with nukes are actually in communication with each other now. In what world did Joe Biden think it was a good idea to stop talking with Putin and to even cut off mid-level diplomatic relations? I mean, that is a dangerous situation when you have two enemies that are both nuclear armed not speaking to each other and doing things behind each other's back. And, there was blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. Some say the CIA was involved in the terrorist attack in Moscow that happened under Biden's watch. And on and on and on. And then arming Ukraine, Russia's neighbor, to the teeth with medium-range missiles that could capable of hitting Russian cities, and then they started actually firing those missiles under Joe Biden into Russia proper. This was heading in one direction and one direction only: nuclear holocaust. And I'm glad to see President Trump taking the bull by the horns and doing it the way I think it should be done, speaking with each individual country separately before you sit them down together to find out, to actually try to understand. Imagine that, both sides to this war. Yep. All we've been fed for 3 years from the Biden administration, Brandon, is propaganda. Total propaganda. These people are obsessed with anti-Russian bigotry, and I think it all emanates from London. The UK has a bitter history with the Russians going back to the 1850s when they fought the Crimean War with Russia. You know, France fought a war with Russia. Napoleon tried to invade Russia. And so those two countries in Western Europe have been the leaders of this harebrained policy of trying to provoke the bear and back the bear into a corner where he can eventually do nothing but fire off his nuclear arsenal. That is insanity. And I'm glad to see President Trump is putting an end to it.
Yeah, Russia joined us in defeating Germany in World War II. Yes.
And the United States has a history of anti-Russian propaganda, but I don't believe the American people have been as affected by it as what we see in Britain and France. And even in those countries, while there is somewhat more anti-Russian obsession, I still don't believe even those countries want to go to war with Russia. I think their leadership is so invested in this anti-Russia meme that that they really, really want to take it. They want to see how far they can push it. They're playing a dangerous game, and it's time to get it over.
We're coming back from the break. I want to play a clip by a U.S. senator. I think Wicker is from Mississippi, Senator Wicker. Clip I saw last night on the air for the first time. I think you guys will find this a little history of a lesson I'm going to give with a comment he tries to make very interesting. But let me go back to the idea of our assets or foreclosing on countries that owe us a bunch of money. It's time to look out after our financial house. Our collapsing of our economy is a massive national security interest, okay? It's huge. Yes. If our economy collapses, you can kiss your military goodbye. They're going to walk off, okay? They're going to walk off, and you're going to be in the position where Ukraine or Venezuela was, where you had soldiers and military people starting to put your stuff out on the black market because they haven't been paid. So your collapsing economy, that's a very big national security issue. You've got to prop your economy up with something, and you need hard assets to do it. So Ukraine, you owe us billions. We're taking it in minerals. You have a dictator. We're arresting your dictator and putting him on trial for fraud. Half the money's missing, and we're going to come in there and we're possessing your country, foreclosing on you until you make good. And that's in minerals that we use to back our currency or whatever. Not a whole lot different than Trump saying about Panama. We built it. We lost a lot of Americans building it. It's ours. And if I have to use the military to take it back, I'm going to take it. Part of this, again, is about backing your currency. That's what he's doing. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. And welcome back to the broadcast. Glad you're with us. Leo Holman is with us at leoholman.com. leoholman.com. He also has another website, which is leoholman.substack.com. leoholman.substack.com. Don't forget to stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider coming up at the top of the hour on VCY America Radio Network. If you're already there, you're there. If you're not, you can find it at vcy.org. V as in Victor, vcy.org. Leo, Senator Wicker, he made this comment on CNN. Listen to this.
You think that Putin can be trusted in these negotiations?
No.
Let me make sure everybody heard that. Do you think Putin can be trusted in these negotiations?
You think that Putin can be trusted in these negotiations?
No. Putin is a war criminal and should be in jail for the rest of his life, if not executed.
Because Trump thinks that that he wants peace, that Putin wants peace.
Well, I read a pamphlet back when I was in junior high called You Can Trust the Russians. And then parenthetically, it was to be clearly on their side. And
I read that's a total Joe Biden moment. Okay, now
That didn't even make sense.
No, it made no sense. And last night when we played this on the air with Neil McCabe, I stunned Neil. Neil was a little shocked because most people don't know what he's talking about. They don't have a clue what he's trying to say. And I think I know what he's trying to say. And I said, Neil, I think what he's trying to say is he read a pamphlet when he was about 13, but I'm not sure it was a pamphlet. Maybe it was, but it also was a book. And it wasn't called You Can Trust the Russians, parenthetical statement. That wasn't the name of the book. And I pulled up a picture of the book immediately on Amazon. And I said, I think what he's trying to say is he either read a pamphlet based on the book or he read the book that's called You Can Trust the Communist, parenthesis, to be communist. I think that's what the senile senator from Mississippi, I think he is, but if you watch him, by the way, is trying to tell us. But notice how much he struggled to even remember what it is he was saying. I want to play it again because, again, it shows these guys are basing their foreign policy on what? They don't even know the book they're talking about. Hang on, here we go.
This is life, if not executed.
Because Trump thinks that he wants peace, that Putin wants peace.
Well, I read a pamphlet back when I was in junior high called You Can Trust the Russians. And then parenthetically, it was to be clearly on their side. And
well, whatever. Can you believe this guy's the Armed Services Chairman? Can you believe this is the Armed? And this book was written by Fred Schwartz, by the way. Okay, and I have it in my library for folks on radio. I'm holding it in my hand. It was the book. It was sent to me by one of my listeners. I have a beautiful library. Some of them I bought myself, but some of them was provided by my wonderful audience. This little pocket-sized book is 186 pages, and by Dr. Fred Schwartz. And somebody wrote in here 10th grade. So they were required to read this when they were in 10th grade. Would that our 10th grade students have to read such books today? But no, they don't. They're too busy reading about sodomy. This was put out by the Christian Anti-Communist Crusade. Okay, that was the name of Fred's organization, and it was out of Long Beach, California. This book was published in 1960, is what it says here, and it went for 50 cents. 50 cents. That's what I think he's trying to talk about. But to think that this guy is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, I would venture to guess in the next few months, you might see him no longer chairman of the Armed Services Committee. I bet you Donald Trump is going to see he's gone. What do you think?
I hope so, because the man doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, for starters, you don't trust any foreign government. I don't trust the Russians. I don't trust the Chinese. I don't trust the North Koreans. I don't trust the UK, and I don't trust, do you trust Starmer in the UK?
I don't trust my government. You think I'm going to trust somebody else's?
Amen. I certainly don't trust these foreign, Macron in France. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is a man who's wanted to put boots on the ground in Ukraine. So No, I don't trust the Russians, and it's stupid to assume that that's the only country we shouldn't trust. But I do believe, like Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. I would say do not trust and still verify.
Right. Do not trust until you verify. Do not trust until you verify.
Exactly. Right.
By the way, this book sold as of 1960, it had sold 1 million copies.
Yep. I mean, this country is in bad shape, Brandon. I mean, we've got years of stupid foreign policy that was leading towards major war. We've had perpetual wars since the end of World War II, but we were headlong towards another world war. And I'm hoping Donald Trump will be able to stop it. But Brandon, I'm still not sure it's going to be stopped. So far, I like what I'm seeing. But remember what the Bible said, beware when you hear them say, peace and security, for sudden destruction will come upon them. And I'm praying that that's not what's going to be in the cards here.
Yeah, I'm going to go through this little book. You can trust a communist to be communist. Fred Schwartz.
It looks similar in the cover and the font and everything to the John Stormer book.
None dare call it treason. They knew each other.
Yes.
They were contemporaries. Okay. They were contemporaries. They knew each other. Dr. Fred Schwartz was a Christian. And he mentored, are you ready for this? He mentored Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne and other men in Hollywood, and rented big facilities in Los Angeles area for big anti-communist rallies. Okay, you can go online and read about them. He passed away, and one of my friends ended up taking over the anti-communist
I have the John Stormer book on my shelf over to my right here as well.
Mine is just a few feet away in the shelf over there. I'm gonna go through here, and I'm gonna type up some of the key lines out of this book in my spare time, Leo, and which
you have so much of.
Yeah, right. But I'm gonna find time to do it because I just was flipping through the book, okay, and I saw whoever did own this book at one time. And I'm sorry, I should have written in the book who sent it to me, one of my wonderful listeners. But I was just flipping randomly through the book here, and I noticed that they are highlighting certain things along the way. And so I stopped to see, what did they highlight? This is 1960, page 71. The second feature of the revolution described by Lenin in The State and Revolution was its purpose. The purpose of the revolution was not to seize control of the state, but to destroy it. Most of the book is given over to this thesis that the state must be destroyed. The state functions in many ways. It functions through the Constitution. It functions through the executive authority, the president, the cabinet, the Justice Department, the police department, the Defense Department. It functions through the legislature, through the judiciary, and through the civil service. The goal of communism was not to secure a president exercising constitutional power. It was not to appoint the cabinet officers such as the Secretary of the State or Defense. The appointment of the judges was not their avowed objective. The purpose was to destroy utterly the Constitution, the legislative system, the judicial system, and the administrative system, to wipe out the state and build a new one in a totally different form, end quote. And isn't that what they have been doing to our country with the long march through the institutions, Leo?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They don't even have the same definition of democracy that most Americans do. Of course, we don't have a democracy, but when most people hear that word, they think of people going to the polls and electing their representatives who then follow our Constitution. But when we hear these elites refer to protecting our democracy and Trump is a threat to our democracy, what they really mean, Brandon, is the institutions, the so-called institutions of our democracy, which we know have all been corrupted, starting with groups like the CFR, the Trilateral Corporation, the Trilateral Commission, and right on down the line to Congress, the presidency, and it's all been corrupted over the decades, Brandon. And now we see what amounts to really a revolution trying to right the ship. It's going to take a revolutionary, very bold revolutionary president, and I think President Trump fits the bill to try to turn this around, because many of us thought it was too late, and it still might be too late. We aren't out of the woods yet, but by golly, it seems like Trump is trying to make a go for it and take the radical action that it would take at this late hour to save this republic.
Interesting thing about Fred Schwartz. Dr. Fred Schwartz sacrificed a successful medical practice in Sydney, Australia, to set the example he believes others could follow by devoting himself full-time to opposition to communism. He travels the world over, alerting citizens of the free countries to the dangers of underestimating or ignoring the communist threat. He is president of the Christian Anti-Communist Crusade. Again, he influenced many people, so did John Stormer, but he influenced people like Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Stewart, and John Wayne, among others. Again, another paragraph.
And another, Brandon, probably another very, very corrupt institution that the media and the establishment continuously defends, that I am hoping Trump will disband and get us out of, the United Nations and also NATO.
100%.
Our interests no longer align with countries like the UK and France and Germany. We've been paying. I've got a new article up that I want people to read. It's a major new article at leohoman.com where I lay out the situation of how and explain how the interests of these globalists among the European elites, Brandon, no longer align with the interests of the United States of America. We need to cut ties. That doesn't mean we can't have friendly trading relationship with them, but we need to stop paying these for their wars, fighting their wars, and financing their wars. 100%. Ukraine is just the latest example of it, and I'm starting to think, Brandon, that perhaps we could be living through a grand realignment globally where the United States shifts its focus towards a more friendly relationship with Russia and prepares in that way to meet the challenge from China, whereas it has been sort of the opposite for the last 35, 40 years. We've developed this very friendly relationship with the Chinese communists, and we've sort of routed the Russians to the side and painted them as the international bully. I think Trump is wanting to reverse that and start a new relationship, start fresh with Putin and the Russians, and use that relationship as leverage against the Chinese challenge. And the Chinese, technologically and economically, are going to give us a run for our money, and perhaps militarily. The Chinese have spent more on their military than any country in the world outside of the United States the last 10 years.
So President Trump may be working on his relationship with Russia in order to break up the Chinese-Russian unlimited relationship. They have an unlimited agreement with each other.
And that is dangerous, and Trump sees that. Apparently Biden, the Biden administration seemed like they just wanted to ignore it.
Yep.
We can't ignore that any longer.
1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Leo, what's the name of that article that you're talking about?
Why are European globalist elites hyperventilating about Trump's efforts to end the war in Ukraine?
Okay, that's at leohoman.com?
Yes.
Okay, I don't see it at leohoman.substack, so I figured it had to be over there. Okay, that one's at leohoman.com. We'll be back with your calls, 1-800-347-9829. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, welcome. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, 1-800-347-9829. Let's go to the phone lines. Wayne in South Dakota. Thanks for calling in, Wayne.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Real as fast as I can, getting to the dollar and Federal Reserve notes and everything, according to U.S. Coinage Act of 1792, a dollar is, well, first of all, if you ask people and you define a dollar, most people don't have a definition of what a dollar is. I mean, a gallon is a measure of liquid, and a foot or an inch is a measurement of distance. And according to the Coinage Act 1792, a dollar is supposed to contain 412.5 grains of fine silver or a quarter ounce of fine gold. And so a definition of a dollar is a measurement of gold or silver content. And we've gone off that, the fiat currency. And, when you're talking about the red letter notes or the red ink notes, that was a United States note printed by our government with no interest attached to it. And when Kennedy was killed, the first executive order that LBJ signed was to pull all those in. And on Kennedy's funeral on November 26th, the first 50 million Federal Reserve notes were shipped out. And so, Kennedy was bucking the system and trying to get an honest currency, the way I see it and what I've read, and he paid a pretty big price for it.
Yeah, he did.
And now Trump is doing the same thing. He's taking on the globalists and the deep state operatives that Kennedy called the secret societies, and now Trump is facing, the same people in part. So that's basically what I was wanting to say. So,
well said. Well said. Thank you, Wayne. Kyle, line 3. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for calling in, Kyle.
Hey, Brennan, Leo, thank you for taking my call. We saw in the 90s when the peso was failing that there was talk about collateralizing the debt and taking on land like the Baja Peninsula as collateral. And I can see what Trump could be doing is hedging the hyperinflation we've been talking about for years by collateralizing what you were talking about in Ukraine, and by getting our financial house in order. That also stops China from collateralizing all the debt that we have and taking our land. So if our financial house is in order with the unrestricted warfare, the only option besides financial then will be taken care of. Then China would have to go kinetic, and they know they couldn't win that. So
great comment, Kyle. Great comment. Leo? What are your thoughts, Leo? Hey, unmute him, guys.
I have theorized for years that the real reason that the Democrats have been, and some Republicans have been so gung-ho for the Green New Deal and this climate agenda is because they're saving our resources for China. Because China owns so much of our debt, I think the deal, whether it was written or spoken, I don't know.
And they're buying our land. And they're buying our land.
Yes. Allowing China to buy up our farmland, our precious farmland, and also not drilling and not exploring for our own, to use our own resources. That was in preparation for the day when China says, okay, we realize you can't pay us back, but we own your resources.
Yep, I think we're all on the same page here, guys. And Leo, what percentage of Americans understand what we're talking about in this broadcast?
Unfortunately, it's in single digits for sure.
Robert, line 2. Robert, thanks for calling in, Robert.
Hey, brother. Hey, I just want to tell you something real quick. My grandmother has an autographed signature from Jimmy Stewart when she was involved in acting way back, I think even before she had my dad. And it was a very affectionate note that he wrote to her. My grandmother was a very strong activist against communism, too. So that's what I was calling for. I just wanted to share that since you brought him up twice, Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, he was also a pilot in the military, I think in World War II. Let's go to Zoe. Zoe, line 1. Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Brandon. Oh, by the way, I sent you guys a note, but anyway, never mind. Important, though. I just wanted to ask you, for one thing, I know you must be familiar with Anna von Reitz, and I wonder what you think about her. I don't know. And she claims that a lot of our gold is in the Philippines, and I have no idea if there's any basis for any of this. But,
I don't think I know her.
I'm sorry.
I don't think I know her. No.
She's a judge, I believe, in Alaska. And if you just type her name, Google her name, you'll find her material. I looked at it a long time ago and was fascinated. And then I forgot about her. And I think Ann Vandersteel probably knows who she is. I bet you.
Yeah, I bet so too.
Seems like they're on the same kind of.
Thank you, Zoe. Mary, line 4. Hi, Mary. Thanks for calling in, Mary.
Yes.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Yes.
I'm calling with regard to your view on Putin.
Yes.
And I'm puzzled by making fun or questioning the one guy that said that Putin was a criminal, because in my view he is a criminal. He has lied to America over and over again. Yes, Russia did help us in World War II, but Stalin killed way more people than Hitler. Hitler was terrible. Stalin was worse, in my view. And, historical facts prove that as well. Communism was very repressive to Christians. If
Absolutely.
you look at Voice of the Martyrs, they will tell you stories and stories of how...
Absolutely. Just for the sake of time, Mary, let me just clarify. No one is doubting the communist Soviet Union and all of that. No one's doubting that. In fact, that's why I like the book, You Can Trust a Communist to Be Communist, about the Soviet bloc and what they were doing. You're right. But this is a new situation with Putin. And if we're going to talk about dictators and people murdering people, then we have to talk about our own government. Because our own federal government, the United States, is as big a mass murderer as any other country on the planet. We have willfully murdered millions of Americans with this COVID shot. We have changed the ways that doctors could even put in children being damaged by the vaccines. In 1979, they changed it so that doctors couldn't even say that a child was damaged by the vaccines because it wasn't an option. So our government is not defense of everything Russia or Putin have ever done. But our government better get off the moral high horse, because our people are just as corrupt.
100%.
Leo?
And I just posted an article, Brandon, at leohoman.com.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
And we'll bring Leo back in. Go ahead, Leo.
Yeah, it's interesting that caller thinks that America has the moral high ground vis-a-vis Russia. I find that interesting in light of all what's being revealed and disclosed with the Doge government efficiency group. I have an article up at my site that shows that the United States of America, through USAID, funded Boko Haram, the Islamic terrorists, which is notorious for one thing and one thing only: killing Christians.
Yep.
And so, don't get up on your high horse about communism killing Christians, because although that is 100% true, Hitler did it. He killed Jews and Christians, but mostly Jews. And Stalin killed many, many millions. Our own government is also got blood on its hands. So before you start judging other countries, we need to get our own house in order. And hopefully President Trump is in the process of doing that.
Yeah. And I appreciate Mary calling in. But what people seem to do is they seem to launch today's Russia all the way back to the Soviet Union. Well, let's do that then with Germany. Let's take Germany today and push it all the way back to Nazi Germany.
Right.
Maybe we should go in and wipe Germany off the face of the earth, right? I mean,
I don't understand. I'm not a big, I don't think Putin is some wonderful, nice guy.
No,
I would never, I would never argue that. But to compare him to Stalin, is completely out of bounds.
Well, he actually has been growing his Greek Orthodox Church in Russia, not shutting down churches.
Which Zelensky has been shutting down his Ukrainian Orthodox churches, but Putin has been helping the Russian Orthodox Church build back its membership from all those lost years during the Soviet era.
And the reason why is because he wants some form of morality, because he knows that religion and morality make for stronger families and sexuality to be normalized of a man and a woman, not the perversion of what's going on in America with the pushing of the LGBTQ. That doesn't make Putin a Christian. That doesn't make Putin some defender of Christianity. That doesn't make Putin a lion of Christianity, as I've heard one talk show host say on a Christian network. It means that he is a leader trying to underpin his country, and he sees the Russian Orthodox Church really as a state church to go alongside his government to reinforce from a religious perspective, as he does from a political or military perspective, the function of his government. We wouldn't want such a thing in America because we don't have a state church. So he is doing what is, in common sense for a guy in his position, trying to get his birth rate up, because pretty quick, the Muslims are going to outnumber him in his own country.
100%. I mean, I actually disagree with a large cross-section of conservative America that thinks Russia is still a communist country. Is it a free country? No, I would not say that. But it is not a hardline communist country either. I tend to see Putin as more of like an old line Russian czar than I do a communist.
I would say it's communitarianism. Big government, big business, all those oligarchs, big government, big business mixed together, which is what we are in America.
And having that state church thrown in there as well, which is what the old czar form of government in Russia did. They had a very strong Russian Orthodox bent. Tsar Nicholas, which was the last Russian czar, he was very devoutly Russian Orthodox, I think probably more than Putin. But I think Putin is trying to model his today's modern Russian government after those old line czaristic type of leaders. Where
but the fact that you and I have to explain this, the fact that we have to explain this to the callers, and I'm glad she called in, but the fact we have to explain this as we do, and we get put on the defensive as we would just were, shows us how deep the brainwashing is in America on what is reality. All the history she gave was correct. But it has nothing to do with the situation at hand unless we want to play fair and say, well, America had slavery, therefore America should be absolutely taken over by the United Nations because of massive human rights violations, and America should succumb to the UN because we had slavery. You could do this with every people group, every country. You cannot take the history of a nation and the world and sweep it across the globe today and say this is the same template playing out.
No, and these same people who are so quick to judge Russia and deem it a 100% total authoritarian dictatorship, which it does have elements of that. I'm not going to say that it is a free country, as I said, but these same people who characterize Russia in that way, you never hear them talk about dictatorship going on in France, in the UK, where they are now arresting people, Brannon, for putting memes on Facebook.
That's right.
Do you believe that?
That's right.
These are no longer free countries in Western Europe any more than
somehow
Russia.
America and the UK is on a moral high ground above everybody else. And if Kamal had been elected, we would be going down that same road.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of world